Salutations friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be answering some comments, questions, commentary, discussions, and the like. So if you enjoy those types of videos, then keep watching. If you're unfamiliar with these videos, I like to go through older comments. Sometimes the comments are from videos months ago that I finally just saw, or some newer comments on newer videos, and I like to respond, usually more in depth. A lot of these comments are great discussion pieces or continuing discussions that I had on previous videos. And I love to do these because these are a great way to just have a nice little chit chat about fragrance. Now, I always have a few things to say about these little discussions. First, sometimes these questions can get a little spicy. If I'm ever referencing anything to do with content creators, YouTube influencers, I can really only speak to my own experience, so I can only reference myself in such situations. I don't have the right to speak for anybody else. And also, if I reference any videos as I talk, I will link all said videos below. Also, hi, my name is Kristin, and I am a fragrance collector and a fragrance enthusiast. I am not an authority, so I don't have any formal training or any formal experience. Formal training I would consider to be either you went to a special school or you worked in an industry or a job where you got very extensive training. I worked at Ulta, and I used to work at Douglas Cosmetics. I got a little tiny bit of training, but I would consider an extensional training to be like if you worked for a brand at like a high-end department store. The amount of training that those sales associates are given is very extensive. You know, it's not just, hey, here's this dossier. They're given on continuous on-job training, on and on and on. So either you work with a brand or you work as a sales associate with a high-end department store that sells high-end brands. You have been to a school, you've trained yourself, all of the above. I am none of that. I am just a consumer, somebody who loves fragrance and likes to use YouTube as a way to share her love and passion for scents, and using YouTube as a way to connect with other people who loves fragrance. So obviously, as I answer comments and questions, any opinions I have, I'm not speaking as anybody that has any education, authority, or training, just some girl that likes to spend her money on perfume. I think most of these comments are actually personal, which if you don't care about personal comments or commentary in regards to like me, my buying habits, my channel, things like that, totally fine. This probably isn't the video for you. There's two comments are from the same person, and it is two different videos, but I think these are great comments. So the first one is on my 10 beautiful fragrances to wear on your wedding day, and this is from Nicole Cooper, and this comment is, how did you get such a massive collection of perfume? So as of currently filming this video, I own about 960 full bottles of perfume. That's not including decants, travel sizes, samples, things like that. That is a lot. And there's a variety of different ways that I've acquired this collection. I have talked before how I afford this collection. I will link it below. And that very much has to do with purchasing, swapping, also having a YouTube channel. Now, I know a common and very understandably common thing when people see any fragrance collection that's on the larger side, and I would assume a fragrance collection would be considered large if there's like 10 to 15 bottles or more. So obviously something that's 960 bottles would be considered large, would be why, and do I have an addiction? And I've talked about fragrance addiction, purchasing habits, things like that. I do not put myself in any financial distress when purchasing these bottles of perfume. I've talked about how I afford it, and I've kind of talked about blind buying, gray markets, things like that. I can afford it because I can't afford anything else. Again, if you care, link below. So in regards to it being an addiction, I don't put myself in financial distress to purchase fragrances. So in that regard, no. But in regards to having an excessive number of unnecessary bottles of perfume, I can understand where people question the integrity of my mental state when it comes down to shopaholic habits. I get it. I'm not going to sit here and say, how dare you, because I understand. But if you are wondering if I have debt, no. I do have ways that I purchase and ways that I budget to make the purchases that I do. The reason why I'm saying this is because I know a lot of people look at my collection and look at larger collections, especially with the YouTubers, we'll get into that in a second, and think to themselves, wow, I need to keep up with that. And I think that people need to always remember that as a YouTuber, you're given a lot of stuff. I am a very small channel, very tiny channel, don't have a lot of growth, don't have a lot of views, don't have a lot of anything, which is totally fine. I've talked about that before in other videos, but I'm still given a lot of opportunities to sample fragrances, being gifted bottles of perfume from brands, and also being given things to review for you guys. So another big chunk of my collection does come from having a fragrance channel and being given things to review, which I think I'm very grateful for. I'm definitely undeserving, but very grateful for. But I always tell people, if you see a YouTuber with a large collection, don't think that it is entirely money spent. A lot of it is people giving us things. I think a great way to add to your collection, if you want to have a larger collection, is look into partials. Partials are a great way to expand your collection. You can look into gray market sites. I've talked about purchasing fragrances from gray market sites. Always be careful, always be mindful that there is a risk, even from places I have had absolutely no issue with purchasing from. Does not mean other people haven't had issues with, so always buy with caution. And then there's swaps too. You know, you can always swap out fragrances if you're tired of something and you want to try something new, decluttering and swapping. Partials, decant samples. There's a variety of different ways you can have a very nice and appropriately sized fragrance collection without going into debt. I think the best way, honestly, is partials. I think partials are fantastic. And it's a way that I actually expand my collection. I do a lot of swapping with partials. But the biggest way that I add to my collection is purchasing, and for the most part, I don't purchase full retail. I do a lot of shopping when it comes down to gray market sites, when it comes down to people themselves decluttering their collection, and also I take advantage of reward points on specific credit cards, and specific stores have great rewards points. Ulta, if I'm looking for designer fragrances, I love to buy my designer fragrances from Ulta with my reward points. I buy a lot of stuff from Ulta and get reward points, and then when a designer fragrance comes out, I'm like, there we go. I just bought that with reward points. And at the end of the day, when I find it necessary to purchase full retail price, I usually do that through and establish a relationship with a sales associate. And in doing that, there's a lot of perks and benefits to that too. I've talked about that before. But for the most part, massive collection, purchasing, discounts, sales, coupons, codes, reward points, luck, blessing, not by my own hard work, even though I do work hard, but a lot of it's very much luck on YouTube channel. But don't look at big YouTubers or small, insignificant YouTubers and think that I would say that our fragrance wardrobes are to be coveted or to be attainable. Unless you yourself have always wanted a large fragrance collection, a lot of us have them for our content. So I would say if you have a hobby that requires equipment, we view our fragrances as equipment for our hobbies. YouTube is my hobby. It is not my job, most definitely not my job. Will never be my full-time job. But YouTube is my hobby, and I view my fragrances not as something that I love and I collect, but as equipment for my hobby. So I also invest in a hobby that I love. So, but purchasing, but also being smart about my purchases. So that is how I acquired so many of these little guys and big guys. Some of them are big bottles. The next comment that Nicole Cooper asked was on my complimenting fragrances video. This is the last one I did, the 10 sexy complimenting fragrances. And that video was specifically regarding fragrances that you would wear to parties or clubs or to date nights to grab attention of potential partners that you would want to have fun, exciting evenings with, go dancing and the like. And this comment is, do I have a perfume business? That would be fun. Yes, it would be. And no, I do not currently. So I have worked on 3 projects, and this is pretty well known, at least, you know, if you're familiar with my channel. 2 fragrances with House of Matriarch, there we go. One was, I was consulted, kind of like a little mini creative director for She. The second one was released last year. It was with Lola Scents, and House of Matriarch and myself, and that was Kiki. And by House of Matriarch, I mean Christy Michelle. She is the nose, the matriarch, the artist, the owner of House of Matriarch. She is wonderful and lovely. I love her. She is fantastic, and she takes any of my warbling, this is what I want, and she turns it into, with her experience and her knowledge of perfumery into something amazing. So I'm not sitting here saying that I had any real talent. It was just my vision, or Lola's and my vision, along with Christy's vision to create fragrances. She did all the hard work, you know, when it comes down to those fragrances. And then I had a passion project where I commissioned Sarah McCartney to create a fragrance that was kind of like a semi-avant-garde fragrance that was a mix between a very dirty jasmines, a very kind of unique leather and citrus, a beautiful green mandarin fragrance that was a limited edition fragrance, and all the proceeds went to charity. I've talked about why I didn't talk about the end of that video. Footage was lost, and when I was ready to finally kind of talk about it, the pandemic hit, and that's when the pandemic hit, the first wave of people being excited about things was the Tiger King series. Yeah, it was that charity, and I've had people contact me and ask me if it was that charity, and I thought it was in the best interest to not mention it, but we donated a lot of money for the cats, for the kitties. So that was fantastic. I myself currently do not own a fragrance business, and each of those projects, specifically the House of Matriarch projects, because I do review a lot of House of Matriarch, they're right up there. I do love House of Matriarch. She and Kiki, no money went into my pocket. I was gifted 1 bottle of perfume as a thank you for being part of that project. That was it. And I never wanted money to exchange hands. Those are a beautiful passion project, an artistic project between friends and perfume lovers. That was never supposed to be like a collab for money. And I'm always love it when there's some type of integrity with projects like that. Not that there's anything wrong with projects where money changes hands. Not at all. And we'll get into that. But for me, with those projects specifically, they started organically as 2 friends or 3 friends being excited about fragrance. And that's personally how I wanted them to end. And that's I've been really happy with. Now, I've talked before in other videos about, and I kind of want to talk about this because I've talked about this before in another video. I think I had to cut a lot of it out. I think it was the YouTube content creator video. The evolution of a fragrance content creator, big or small. Creating a fragrance is something a lot of fragrance lovers would like to do, or even people who aren't super into the fragrance community. It just seems like something that would be fun. So YouTube content creators, especially the larger ones, are given a lot of opportunities to work as either a consultant, creative director, and I talked about what a creative director, my thoughts are, but we're going to get into that, with brands. And those have been very successful because they have audiences that want to see their point of view in perfumery, and especially when they're paired with a very dedicated house or a very good nose. It comes to be pretty popular and pretty well done. And then there's perfume reviewers that start their own brands. And when I did the Tiger project, I had been, years prior, had wanted and kind of looked into starting my own brand, even before I had started my YouTube channel. I thought doing like a small little, like small batch perfume brand would be great. To kind of TLDR about a creative director, I would never be able to be a true creative director in regards to owning a perfume brand, and I definitely wouldn't be able to be a nose because there is a level of artistry and deep understanding, and there's a lot of people out there who do perfume making as a hobby, and they do it as a serious hobby, and they are like so good at what they do. And I love following these groups and these forums, and I follow them like secretly, not that anybody would give a crap if I was there. I could never add anything to the community, and I'm not ready to ask questions. So I feel like if I were to comment on everything, it would just be filler or fluff and would take away from the threads or the discussions having. So I like to lurk and read. And there is so much that goes into being a nose and a creative director. There is an understanding of science, of chemistry. There's an understanding of building a formula. It's not just like a bergamot opening with maybe a little bit of vetiver at the base. There's a little bit of sandalwood. I want some beautiful soft florals. So there's a rose and there's a jasmine. There is a lot. Like if you read notes in a fragrance that maybe there's like 10 notes, the formula might be like 60 ingredients long. It is And it's not just understanding the ingredients. Sometimes it's understanding where the ingredients come from. It's understanding suppliers. It might not just be understanding suppliers. It might be understanding different areas of the world, different like locations of areas in the world. Like maybe different areas have richer soil, so it's going to have a better, more substantial smell. And so, I mean, people who are creative directors, people who are noses, they're not only given training on the science and the history of houses and styles of perfumery, they're also trained to be given a deep understanding of these things. And you can self-train and be a ridiculously talented perfumer. Absolutely you can. But I know I'm realistic with myself. I'm realistic with my expectations with myself. And there are things that I know that I am wickedly talented at, and I am not wickedly talented at things like that. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I would be wickedly talented at being a nose or being wickedly talented at being a creative director at a degree that I would consider a true creative director would be. And I don't think I have the ability to completely be a true perfumer as a self-taught level, like a lot of these people who self-teach themselves and do it in such a way where it's like tremendous, like their knowledge is tremendous. I do have a little small organ actually that I do play around with just to kind of for my own fun. I haven't done it in a while because there's been a lot of things that have been happening, but I also do it for my own benefit and knowledge. I do have a lot of literature, a lot of books, textbooks, things like that I do invest in and I do read to try and give myself a better understanding of fragrance. And would I love to own a perfume business? Yes. Is it in the cards? Yes and no. So this is something that I get asked a bunch, and I think that any content creator gets asked this. I don't think I specifically am asked this. I think anyone that's been doing YouTube for months or years or anything like that gets asked this, and that's, are you going to start a perfume brand? Like I said, the natural evolution. And I would love to, but there is a bit of a question on if I would. I do know one thing. If I did start a perfume brand, I would invest my own money in it. If I were going to do that, we're looking at probably just based on how much money I paid or it cost for Tiger for a small run of one perfume. And that was Sarah had given a lot of her time and her resources as a gift to the Cats for Charity, which was very generous of her. I would assume if I wanted to do a small batch of fragrances that I took on all the cost, it would probably cost me around $25,000. So we're talking about a lot of money here. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if I were to start a perfume brand, it would be a lot of fun, but that's a lot of money to invest. So I would have to take that amount of money seriously. That's not the amount of money that I would just throw around all willy-nilly. Whether or not I have it, it's not that I don't have it, it's the decision of what do I do now? Do I continue reviewing fragrance? Because I don't want to give up YouTube. I love YouTube. I don't want to give it up. How would I go about continuing reviewing fragrances if I wanted to continue reviewing fragrances on YouTube? How would I balance having a brand but also keeping it separate and having an integrity, having a channel where I felt like I had some integrity and honesty, you know, keeping it separate? And how would you guys figure about that? I know that there's a lot of YouTubers that are coming out with their own brands and coming out with their own fragrances. And I think that's super exciting, but that's also like completely saturating the market. And even though this is something I've been thinking about for almost a decade at this point, would it just be like another YouTuber, a small, tiny YouTuber, you know, making another fragrance, you know, like, would it not be financial, would it not make financial sense because, you know, people are so tired of YouTubers coming out with brands? Would I stop doing YouTube? How? I mean, I have an idea of the nose I would work for. I have an idea. I mean, I've already figured this all out because that's what I do. Whenever I have owned small businesses, I always work years in advance. Even if I don't, I have 3 businesses. I have like a bunch of small businesses. That's how I make my money. I've talked about this. And I'm really good at doing all that and setting them up and being successful with that. But there are businesses that I start up and I get ready to invest money, and then I say, this isn't a smart thing to do. I need to hold off on it. I need to wait. And then so I hold off on it for sometimes years, and then I start it up. And then some business I say, okay, now's not the good time. We need to pause this for a little bit. You know, I have the ability to do that with the equipment that I have, the businesses that I run, and everything like that. And with this, I have to be very mindful of, this is something that's more of a passion project. Because to be perfectly honest, if I were to have my own perfume business, I wouldn't really want to do it for profit. I mean, I would need some sort of profit to continue to do it. But I always told myself, if I started a perfume business, I really would want to do it and use it as a way to give back to things that I cared about. So one of the things that I care about is supporting local artists on top of noses that I think are already well known or deserve more recognition or just more projects to shine, but also supporting local artists and local charities. And so the idea would be is if I did a perfume brand, it wouldn't just center around the fragrance, it would center around presentation. And it would center around the presentation of commissioning local artists to help in the creation of these bottles and these boxes. And some of the presentation I could create myself. You know, having a fab lab, you know, I keep hitting my microphone. Like, I have a CNC router, I have a foundry, I have 3 3D printers, I have a laser cutter, I have a kiln, I have an ability to do ceramic work and fiber work. You know, I'm a painter, I'm an artist. That's a lot of my money comes from artwork on top of graphic art. But I also think that there's something amazing about commissioning pieces from artists, from local artists and things like that. And so I would want to commission, like, not just like special limited bottles, but having the limited edition fragrances only being in these. And so giving back to local artists, especially during a time where things have been so rough for a lot of people. And by local, I don't mean just local to me, but smaller artists worldwide. So I might commission a woodworker to do the special boxes, or a glass blower, you know, or a metalsmith or something like that. That takes a lot of time and a lot of consideration. And you know, if I wanted things to be shipped worldwide, there's a lot that I would love to do with a perfume brand, and I don't think that I would be able to do everything. And my thought is if I was going to ultimately, if I would have to decide to give up YouTube to have a perfume brand, I would want to make sure that I was able to do everything I would want to do, which is be able to give back to charities with profits, you know, to local charities. Like, say, this run of fragrances is going to go to this charity, this perfume is going to go to this charity, things like that. You know, when you purchase this bottle, these are the 3 artists that you're supporting with the purchase of these bottles. I'm not so much worried about profit. I just don't want it to be a money sinkhole. I'd want the project to pay for itself, if that makes sense. And $25,000, and that's just me thinking based off of the Tiger project. That's not me actually understanding how it truly would cost, because again, like I said, that was based on Sarah's resourcing everything. That was Sarah doing all the hard work, all of her resources, all of her experience, all of her connections. Like I'm assuming it would be at least 25. That's a lot of money to sit here and think, yeah, I would start a perfume brand. So I don't know. Would I love to? Yes, I would absolutely love to. But there's a lot of things in the way. In an idealistic, perfect world where I could do that passion project and it would pay for itself, and I could commission amazing noses, you know, people that I love and respect in the community, and pay them their way, you know, pay them their fare, because I would always want to make sure everyone was paid, and be able to give back to local artists and local charities and not worry about profit, because this wouldn't be about profit, and not have to give up my YouTube channel, and be able to separate the two in a way where it felt natural and good. I would most definitely do it. But there's a lot of money that I would have to consider, and a lot of different things that would have to fall into place. So currently, I do not have a fragrance business. I would love to, though, and I think a lot of people who love fragrance would love a fragrance business. And like I said, even if I owned that brand, even if I donated or put in, because it would be something where it would be all of my own money, I would still, like, you know, working with a talented knows, I still wouldn't be considered a true creative director. So I'd still be taking some risks too. But it is something I've considered. I've considered a lot. I've considered recently, considered for the past 6 years, past 10 years. It's actually why I did Tiger Tiger. That was one of the first fragrances I would have wanted to release. And it just came to be that I was able to have that project and be able to give to a charity, which was amazing. And just at the end of the day, I think a lot of people would love to at least create a bespoke fragrance or have the fun, creative experience of owning their own brand, but there's so much that goes into it, and I don't know if I am at the point yet where I'd be ready to give up YouTube to do it, if that's what it would take, or if the market is willing for another YouTuber to come out with a brand, because I wouldn't be doing it in a way where it would be safe, like working with somebody who already invested their own money, and so I would just be working with a nose to create something beautiful. I would be investing my own money, and so I'd have to be more careful, because again, at the end of the day, it's a lot of money. And if I'm investing it into a project where I get to see what I want to see in the world and also give back to local charities and support the local arts, then absolutely. But if it's just gonna not do anything and just be a waste, I'd much rather just give it to charity or let it sit in my savings account. And let me know what you guys think. And not so much about me creating it, but just YouTuber fragrances in general. Are you guys tired of them? I have a feeling you guys are gonna say you're tired of them. But I know also, I also think too that there's some YouTubers out there that have started their own brands that have done, they're so creative, they're so beautiful, they're so amazing. And some of them have stopped filming videos and I miss them. So I would love to know what you guys think generally. This next comment I think was great. I think I took this comment as a little bit more of a critical comment, and I love critical comments. Again, because sometimes critical comments are necessary to kind of clarify and kind of realize that you don't use words correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the comment, and I actually responded, and it's kind of long, so I'm going to read that. And then I'm going to kind of summarize and expand upon a little bit what I meant. So this comment was on my 10 complimentary fragrances for date nights and clubs and stuff. And to kind of theme it up a little bit, I said if you were going to invest your money in a bottle of perfume, or if you were going to buy a fragrance to invest in your wardrobe. And you'll see. And again, it's on me. It's completely on me. And Timothy John says, what do you mean by an investment piece? Are these assets? I'm just curious. No, these are not assets. Real quick, before I get into the comment and I read what I say, fragrance is a money hole. This is a tar pit. No, this is not asset. This does not increase your net worth at all. I keep hitting my microphone. I'm sorry. In most cases, in like maybe 99.99999 cases out of like a billion or whatever the closest number is to that, you're gonna lose money on fragrance. You're buying it for your own quality of life, your own happiness. You're not buying it to make your bank account thicker. No. But there are some cases where you might get lucky, like buying a Guerlain fragrance, and they decide to discontinue it without telling anybody, and that fragrance goes from being worth $200 to $1,000. Very rarely will any fragrance be worth an investment, to be perfectly honest. Now, if you buy fragrances to start like a job, a decanting business, that's a whole other situation. But generally, we're talking about purchasing a fragrance to wear, to add to your fragrance wardrobe. No, not an asset. No. It's kind of like buying a car. Once you buy it, it kind of the value goes down. Going into that, here is my long-winded. It's long, so if you guys are familiar with my channel, I cannot read very well out loud, so I'm sorry. My response is definitely not assets, but I think if you're going to spend your money on luxury items, even if they only cost $20 to $50, you'd want to be sure they would do what you paid for. I guess some people wear scents for themselves, so the investment would be personal satisfaction. So why buy something you don't like? That would be a waste of money if you only had the budget for one bottle of perfume. Rather buy the bottle that you love the most, since your criteria for it being worth spending the money is if you like it or not anyone else's opinions. Obviously sticking within your budget. I have I think a great analogy when I'm done reading this comment. If compliments and gaining attention, hopefully positive, sometimes I don't know, is your criteria for what you are looking for, and is whether or not you would buy a bottle of fragrance, then other people's opinions in some cases might be way more valuable than your own. And if you were going to spend money on a fragrance and having it perform and smell in such a way that you might have the possibility to get compliments, then spending your money on fragrances with certain notes or certain formulas might be a wiser choice. Weaker and less attention-grabbing compositions would be the less wise choice in that scenario. So in a way, a wiser investment would be spending your money on something that did what you wanted it to do, especially if you were working on a budget. Investment was not the best word. Sadly, I'm not the best with words. I think we've realized this by now. I hope I made my point clear and did not make my point less clear. I'm sorry. So when I said investment, I kind of mean investing in yourself, not like investment, like what investment truly means. That's what I mean, like I'm bad with words. So for me, when you spend money, it can be considered a waste unless you're spending it on something that is necessary, like rent, or people even think spending money on rent is a waste unless you're purchasing, car payment, medical bills, utilities, proper food that is nutritious and is healthy, not junk food. I would say for me, when I'm considering an investment, something that is important is quality of life. What makes you happy? You're investing in yourself. You're investing in your happiness, your general happiness. That does not mean that you should overspend to make yourself happy. You should always make sure that you are being a responsible adult, if possible. So, what I mean by that is say you have a budget. You have 2 bottles of perfume and they each cost $100. The first scenario is you only care about your own investment. You're treating yourself to something that you want. You want a beautiful bottle of perfume. You want to wear it and feel however you want to feel, attractive, handsome, gorgeous. But the only person's opinion that truly matters is your own. You don't care what anyone else thinks. Your partner could think you smell like garbage. You don't care. It's whatever you want. So you have 2 bottles, $100. This one is the most beautiful thing you've ever smelled. This one smells not bad, pretty nice. Your partner says, well, that one smells okay. Your partner says, man, that one smells so sexy. Which one would be the wiser investment for you based on the scenario? And that would be this one, because you only care about yourself. Your investment, your reason for purchasing this fragrance, your criteria is your happiness. You would purchase this fragrance and you'd go home and you'd probably feel like you wasted your money, because you'd probably be like, I really loved that other one. So you'd probably feel kind of down about your purchase. That to me would be not a wise decision. You were going to spend the money anyway. It was a decision that you budgeted, but the reason why you purchased it was, not the same reason. Now, let's go back to the other reason. You're tired of your partner constantly harking on how horrible you smell, and you want to find something that you like and your partner just thinks is so sexy and smells so good on you. So you have the same 2 bottles of perfume. Your partner likes this. It's okay. He's like, yeah, he, she, whoever. Yeah, that one smells okay. They're like, dang, that one smells so sexy. I'd love to smell that one on you. Your criteria for purchasing a fragrance then would be this bottle of perfume. You take that home, you'd be happy because every time you wear that, your partner would be giving you compliments, telling you how sexy you are, and you would be so excited. But if you purchase this one, yeah, it would smell beautiful, but every time you wore it, you probably wouldn't be getting as many compliments or probably no attention at all from your partner. And you'd be like, why did I waste my money on this? The reason why I purchased my fragrance was because I wanted this particular purchase to be a fragrance that I would wear to get attention from my partner. Maybe I wore it on date nights, or maybe I would wear it to go to a party and my partner would smell me at the party and just realize how sexy and lucky they are to have me. There's specific reasons and criteria that people buy unnecessary things. When you're making these purchases, a lot of people have reasons why they purchase things, and a lot of it is quality of life, being happy, having, instant gratification. But instant gratification might be, the confidence of getting a compliment from somebody you don't know, or somebody that's opinion you value very much, like a partner, or your own opinion, and you just finding the most beautiful bottle of perfume and you wanting to treat yourself. So I guess what I mean when you're investing your money is investing, since that was a compliment video, was like, these are the fragrances that I would recommend if you were looking to investing in a fragrance to add to your collection, because I think that they're going to grab attention. But I obviously used the wrong terminology. But no, fragrance is not an asset. It will not increase your net worth. No. So this comment comes from Rochelle Sadie, and this is from my 10 amazing and effortless fragrances to kickstart your 2022 new year. And their comment was, Layla was a blind buy for me a while back, and I feel like it's such a hidden gem. I then bought it for my sister a few weeks ago, and she also adores it. If you think it sounds nice, it will far exceed your expectations, and that much I can guarantee. I feel like everybody says this about Layla, or a lot of people say this about Layla. There's a few fragrances out there that are so underappreciated, but whenever people talk about them, people get so excited. And Layla is one of those fragrances. Layla is just one of those fragrances that is gorgeous. And I think a lot of it has to do with just Guerness's ability to translate like the Norway's beauty into fragrance. It's just, and when I was talking with him, I got to interview him a few years ago for Frozen in a Bottle. He loves Norway. He loves flowers. He loves perfume. He has this effortless joy about him when you talk with him. It was hard to get a word in, and it's not because he was rude, it's because he's one of those people. Have you ever heard somebody talk and they're just so happy and they're so excited to share their passion with you, and they get so excited? That's how he was. He was wonderful to talk to. He was a joy. And he just, like, that passion and joy is just translated into Layla, and it's gorgeous. It is gorgeous. It is a floral bouquet. It is on the slightly more mature side, but not in a way that feels dated. There's a cool kind of breeze in this fragrance. And I think that if I were to think of a transportive scent, mostly when people think of transportive scents, they think being taken to like a tropical locale, like a vacation spot. And I get it. I love those. But I think that Layla is a beautiful transportive scent to be taken to Norway when the weather is crisp and cool and there's flowers everywhere, and it's just stunning. And I have a family friend who's Norwegian. She goes to Norway all the time, and I had her smell it, and she's like, yep, that's Norway. She's like, that's Norway in a bottle. And that was just fun to smell. It is beautiful. It is beautiful. It's not for everybody, but I think everybody should try. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for sitting through this long video, and I will see you next time. Bye.